Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh and England's longest-ever royal consort, died on Friday, April 9, 2021. Philip was known for being close to his family, and he and Prince William's wife, Kate Middleton, reportedly had a close bond that surprised some. These delightful poses suggest unexpectedly rich bonds between Kate and Prince Philip.
A single bank transfer. That's all it took to shift the entire power structure inside Buckingham Palace. £70 million moved through offshore accounts in the dead of night. And when the sun rose, Princess Catherine held more financial power than any royal consort in British history. But here's what nobody saw coming. The money didn't come from William. It didn't come from the Crown estate. And the person who orchestrated this entire financial earthquake? He'd been dead for 2 years. Make sure you're subscribed because what I'm about to reveal will completely change how you see the royal family forever. Picture this. It's 3 a.m. at Kensington Palace. Catherine sits alone in her private study, staring at a laptop screen. The email she's reading has been encrypted 3 times. The sender? A Swiss banking firm she's never heard of. The subject line? Trust activation complete. Immediate access granted. Her hands are shaking because the number on the screen isn't thousands. It isn't millions. It's tens of millions. And nobody, not William, not Charles, not even the Queen's former advisors, can touch a single penny without her approval. How did we get here? Rewind to April 9th, 2021. Prince Philip dies at Windsor Castle. The world mourns. The family grieves. But in a secure office in Geneva, something else happens.
It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle.
A clock starts ticking. A financial mechanism designed decades earlier begins to activate. And Princess Catherine's name appears on documents in 3 different countries, all within 48 hours of Philip's death. Here's what makes this absolutely insane. Catherine didn't know. For months after Philip's funeral, she had no idea she'd just become one of the wealthiest women connected to the British royal family.
She is one of the most recognisable women in the world. A fashion icon, a champion of charitable causes, and a princess.
The trusts were designed that way. Silent, invisible, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal themselves. And when they did, everything changed. The secret plan. Philip built before Catherine even existed. Let me break down exactly what happened, because this is where it gets really interesting. Prince Philip wasn't just the Queen's husband. He was a strategic thinker who'd watched European monarchies crumble, royal families lose everything, and once powerful dynasties reduced to historical footnotes. He was terrified it would happen to his family. So starting in the late 1990s, he did something almost no one knew about. He built a financial fortress, not for himself, not even for his children, for the one person he believed would actually protect the monarchy's future, his grandson's wife, who wasn't even in the picture yet. Think about that. Philip was planning for Catherine before William had even met her. He was building financial structures for a woman whose name he didn't know, based purely on the kind of person he knew William would need by his side. The evidence is scattered across decades. In 1998, Philip opened his first offshore trust in Liechtenstein. Small deposits, nothing that would raise eyebrows. By 2003, he'd added accounts in Switzerland and the Channel Islands. By 2008, property holdings in London under shell companies that traced back to carefully structured legal entities. By 2010, 1 year before William and Catherine's wedding, the total value had quietly grown to approximately £25 million. Then Catherine married into the family,
William Arthur Philip Louis, wilt thou have this woman to thy wedded wife, to live together according to God's law in the holy estate of matrimony? Wilt thou love her, comfort her, honour and keep her, in sickness and in health?
And Philip watched her closely, very closely. Palace insiders from that era tell a fascinating story. Philip, who was famously difficult and rarely praised anyone, started saying something to his private secretary that raised eyebrows. "She's got it," he'd say. After watching Catherine handle a difficult public event, she actually understands. After Catherine navigated her first solo royal tour without a single misstep, Philip reportedly told a close friend, "That's the one we need to protect. She's our insurance policy." Insurance policy. Those exact words. Because Philip knew something everyone else was too polite to say out loud, the monarchy's survival didn't depend on bloodlines anymore. It depended on public connection. And Catherine had that in spades while others didn't. So Philip made a decision that would have been unthinkable a generation earlier. He restructured everything. Every trust, every investment, every property holding. All of it was quietly redirected through legal mechanisms that would eventually place Catherine in control. Not William and Catherine, just Catherine. Her name, her signature, her decision-making power. Why? Because Philip understood something crucial about power and marriage. If the money belonged to William, it was just another pot of royal wealth, subject to all the usual constraints and oversight. But if it belonged to Catherine personally, that changed everything. It gave her independence, leverage, the ability to make moves without asking permission from palace machinery that might not have her best interests at heart. The structure Philip created was brilliant. Imagine a spider web of financial entities, each connected but operating independently. Property holdings in Edinburgh generating rental income. Investment portfolios in Singapore and Hong Kong focused on emerging tech. Agricultural land in Scotland being converted to organic farming. Shares in renewable energy companies that have since exploded in value. Even a stake in a pharmaceutical research firm that's now worth 20 times its original investment. Each piece was small enough to avoid attention, but together, they formed something unprecedented, a completely private royal fortune, beyond the reach of constitutional oversight, public scrutiny, or even the king's authority. The activation mechanism was genius. Upon Philip's death, a series of legal dominoes began falling. Trustees in 3 countries received coded instructions. Law firms that had been on retainer for decades suddenly had work to do. And at the end of this carefully designed chain reaction, Catherine received access to everything. But here's the detail that'll blow your mind. She almost missed it. The initial notification email went to a secondary account Catherine rarely checked. It sat unread for 3 weeks. When her private secretary finally flagged it as urgent, Catherine apparently thought it was a scam. She nearly deleted it. Imagine, £70 million almost lost because it looked like a phishing email. The moment everything changed, inside Buckingham Palace. Once Catherine's lawyers verified everything was legitimate, the real drama began, because suddenly Kensington Palace had resources that rivaled or exceeded what was available to the king himself for personal projects. Think about the implications. Charles accesses money through the Duchy of Lancaster and the sovereign grant, both heavily scrutinized and restricted. Catherine had offshore accounts that could move millions without anyone's permission. The first test came quickly. Catherine wanted to launch a major childhood development initiative. Normally, this would require months of approvals, budget negotiations, and coordination with a dozen different palace offices. Instead, she funded the entire thing herself. £5 million transferred in a week, completely independent of royal red tape. The initiative launched to massive public praise. And inside palace walls, people started asking a very uncomfortable question. Who's really in charge here? Camilla's office was blindsided. According to sources close to the Queen Consort's team, they'd been planning their own major initiative for months, struggling with budget approvals and sovereign grant restrictions. Then Catherine announced her fully funded program seemingly out of nowhere. The frustration was immediate. How was Catherine doing this? Where was the money coming from? Charles himself was reportedly stunned. During a private financial briefing, his advisors had to explain that yes, Catherine controlled a fortune they couldn't touch. Yes, it was completely legal. And no, there was nothing anyone could do about it, because Philip had designed the system specifically to be bulletproof against interference, even from a reigning monarch. The power shift was subtle but unmistakable. Patronages that usually would go through traditional palace channels, Catherine's office started snapping them up, offering better funding and more operational freedom. High-profile staff members? Kensington Palace could suddenly pay competitive salaries that Buckingham Palace, constrained by public funding scrutiny, couldn't match. Media strategy? Catherine's team had resources to hire the best consultants in the world without justifying expenses to anyone. Princess Anne was one of the few who wasn't surprised. Multiple sources suggest she knew about Philip's plans, possibly even helped develop them. Anne had always advocated for modernizing royal finances and reducing public funding dependence. From her perspective, Philip had done exactly what needed to be done: create sustainable private wealth that could fund royal activities without taxpayer money or constitutional headaches. But the really fascinating part isn't just the money itself, it's what Catherine chose to do with it. She didn't buy yachts or jewelry or extravagant properties. Instead, she started building something far more valuable: institutional independence. First came the staff expansion. Catherine hired a former Treasury official as her personal financial advisor, then a crisis management expert from a top London firm, then a digital media team that would make tech companies jealous. Within 18 months, Kensington Palace had transformed from a traditional royal household into something more like a modern corporate operation: lean, strategic, media-savvy. The Education Trust alone is revolutionary. £15 million set aside specifically for George, Charlotte, and Louis, but not for typical royal education. This fund is designed to give them real-world skills. Want to spend a year learning sustainable business practices? Funded? Interested in advanced technology training? Funded covered. The goal isn't creating pampered princes and princesses. It's creating royals who could actually function independently if the monarchy ever faced serious existential threats. Then there's the property strategy. Using trust funds, Catherine quietly acquired several commercial properties in strategic locations: Edinburgh, Cardiff, Belfast. These aren't royal residences. They're investments that generate income while also positioning the family across all UK nations. It's soft power through real estate, building tangible connections beyond London that previous generations never prioritized. The charitable foundation is perhaps the most ambitious piece. Currently dormant but pre-funded with £10 million, it's positioned to launch whenever Catherine chooses. Unlike traditional royal charities that operate under palace oversight and constitutional restrictions, this foundation would be completely independent. Catherine could tackle controversial issues, fund cutting-edge research, or support causes that might make palace traditionalists uncomfortable, all without asking anyone's permission. The investment philosophy shows someone thinking decades ahead. Heavy positions in renewable energy, healthcare innovation, sustainable agriculture, educational technology. These aren't just good investments. They're positions in sectors that align perfectly with Catherine's public image and the causes she champions. It's financial strategy and public relations working in perfect harmony. But perhaps the cleverest element is this. The trusts are structured so that income generated goes toward funding William and Catherine's public duties, reducing their dependence on the sovereign grant. This means they can gradually reduce the perception of living off taxpayer money while maintaining, even expanding, their public role. It's a long-term solution to one of the monarchy's biggest PR vulnerabilities. What makes Philip's strategy even more remarkable is the timing mechanism he built into everything. The trusts weren't just activated by his death. They were designed to mature at specific moments of maximum impact. When Charles became king, Catherine's access expanded. When George turns 18, another layer activates. When William eventually ascends to the throne, the final pieces click into place. It's financial planning that spans generations, anticipating challenges the monarchy hasn't even faced yet. There's also a protective element most people don't realize. Embedded in the trust documents are clauses that activate if Catherine ever faces a divorce, public scandal, or attempt to force her out of royal life. In those scenarios, her financial position actually strengthens. She gains access to emergency funds, legal resources, and support structures that make her virtually impossible to sideline or silence. Philip essentially gave her a financial panic button, insurance against the very institution she serves. The digital infrastructure Catherine has built with these resources is particularly forward-thinking. While traditional royal communications still rely on palace press offices and carefully managed releases, Catherine's team operates more like a modern media company. They've developed direct-to-public communication channels, sophisticated social media strategies, and data analytics that would impress Silicon Valley. This isn't your grandmother's monarchy. It's a digitally native operation that understands 21st century power flows through engagement, not just tradition. And here's something that keeps palace officials up at night. Catherine's financial independence means she could, theoretically, continue operating even if officially stripped of royal titles or support. The infrastructure exists. The funding is secure. The public connection is strong. It's a safety net that transforms the traditional power dynamic where the institution holds all the cards. Now Catherine holds quite a few herself. The silent power war nobody's talking about. Inside the palace, the tension is carefully managed, but definitely present. Charles can't publicly oppose Catherine having independent wealth. That would look petty and controlling. But privately, there are concerns about coherent strategy when one royal household operates with vastly more financial flexibility than others. How do you maintain unified messaging when Catherine can simply fund her way around any obstacle? Camilla's position is particularly delicate. As queen consort, she theoretically outranks Catherine. But rank doesn't pay salaries, fund initiatives, or build institutional capacity. Catherine's financial independence gives her a type of power that traditional royal hierarchy never accounted for. And there's nothing Camilla can do about it because the money exists completely outside normal royal structures. The younger royals watch all this with fascination. Beatrice and Eugenie, who've struggled with their semi-royal...
Not just financial ones. His father, Robert, battled alcoholism, which cast a dark shadow over Keith's childhood. In interviews, Keith has openly talked about his father as a strict man who didn't show much love. He described growing up in a home where emotions were often ignored and discipline was tough. Keith once said, "My dad was tough." He believed that hard work was the best way to show love, and he didn't express feelings with words or kind gestures. This lack of emotional connection left a deep impact on Keith, and influenced his adult life. One of the hardest moments in Keith's life came when he was just 9 years old. His family faced a tragedy that would change everything. Their home was destroyed in a terrible fire. Although his family was safe, they lost everything they owned. Many of the things they lost were very meaningful to them, and this was especially difficult since they were already struggling with money. Losing all their possessions was a huge setback, but it was just one of the challenges they would face. Community support. After the fire, Keith saw something truly amazing: the strong support from his community.
The first guitar I purchased was a Ibanez Fender copy. I couldn't afford a Fender. Actually, my dad took me to the guitar shop. I was 9, and it was a Ibanez Telecaster Deluxe.
The local country music club organized a fundraiser to help Keith's family get back on their feet. It was through this act of kindness that Keith learned the true meaning of country music. He realized that it wasn't just about guitars and catchy tunes. It was about community, strength, and people coming together to help each other in tough times. This experience had a big impact on Keith and shaped how he saw life and music. Even after becoming one of the biggest stars in the world, Keith often remembers this moment. It serves as a reminder of how important support can be when facing life's biggest challenges. Keith talks about the fire as a turning point in his life. It wasn't just about the things they lost, but also about what they gained. The understanding that music could bring people together, heal, and give hope. Healing and hope. Keith has often said that country music is more than just songs. It's about the people who listen to it and live it. The fire he experienced taught him this lesson, and it has stayed with him ever since. As Keith's career started to rise, his struggles grew stronger. In the early 1990s, he moved to Nashville to follow his dreams, but life there wasn't easy. Nashville, the heart of country music, was full of talented musicians, all trying to make it big. The competition was fierce, and Keith found himself surrounded by many who wanted the same thing: fame. The pressure was heavy, and for someone who had already dealt with emotional pain from his childhood, it became too much. During this time, Keith was introduced to cocaine by a roommate. Though his first experience with the drug didn't seem too serious, it soon became a bigger part of his life. The addiction took hold, and Keith found himself battling something much darker than the challenges of his career. The pressure of fame, combined with his inner struggles, led him down a dangerous path. But as he dealt with these personal demons, Keith never lost sight of what he had learned growing up, how important community and support could be. His family, friends, and fans helped him through the toughest times, and eventually, he found the strength to turn his life around. This struggle with addiction, while painful, taught him valuable lessons about resilience, healing, and hope. Lessons that still influence his music and his life today. Addiction. At first, Keith didn't think his drug use was that serious.
And Keith Urban's former songwriting partner, Vernon Rust, has written about the time in the late 1990s the former bandmates allegedly snorted $320,000 of the drug in an epic binge in his new book, Fake News.
But it soon became the start of a much darker chapter in his life. He began using drugs and alcohol to cope with the pressure of trying to make it in Nashville's tough music scene. He was young, far away from home, and struggling to find his place in a city where success wasn't guaranteed for anyone. By the late 1990s, Keith's use of drugs and alcohol had gotten much worse. He described this time in his life as very dark, saying, "I was in a dark place, I was trying to fill a void, and I was doing it in all the wrong ways." Music producer Vernon Rust shared that Keith once spent over $320,000 on cocaine, and they would sometimes stay awake for days in the studio. Even though Keith was having success with his music, he still felt lonely and empty. Once the spotlight dimmed, he struggled even more. In interviews, Keith has been open about his addiction. He admitted, "I started to drink more and more, and it was really hard for me to accept that meant I was an alcoholic." He tried to tell himself that he was fine and just needed a break. But soon, drinking every day became a routine for him. Keith realized that fame couldn't fix what was broken inside of him. You can have all the success in the world, But if you're not right with yourself, none of it matters, he said. The turning point came in 1998 when Keith saw just how far his addiction had taken him. He made the brave decision to check himself into rehab, and that marked the beginning of his long road to recovery. Keith has since spoken about the challenges he faced and how he slowly began to heal. Love in action. Keith often talks about his sobriety with humor. He once joked, "I just figured out I'm allergic to alcohol. When someone asked what happens when I drink, I said I break out in cuffs." Even though Keith stayed sober after his first time in rehab, his battle with addiction wasn't over.
The 72-year-old man had received the Country Music Association's first ever Touring Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017, describing his decade career as unparalleled.
In 2006, after marrying Nicole Kidman, Keith relapsed. This time it was Nicole's strong support that helped him find his way again. She encouraged him to go back to rehab. When asked how long it was before he went to rehab after getting married, Keith shared that it was only about 4 months. Nicole didn't know about his struggles with addiction before they were married, but Keith realized how serious his situation had become. He admitted that he wasn't fully aware of how deep his addiction had gotten until it was almost too late. Nicole's support during this time was what Keith later called love in action. He spent 3 months in rehab, longer than he had planned. During this time, he realized that his addiction was more than just about drugs and alcohol. He needed to face the emotional pain that had led him to use these substances to escape. Keith's marriage to Nicole Kidman has been one of the most stabilizing parts of his life. The couple met in 2005 at a gala in Los Angeles, and after dating for a year, they married in June 2006 in a beautiful ceremony in Sydney. However, their marriage hasn't always been easy. Keith has shared how his difficult childhood, especially his strained relationship with his father, made it hard for him to connect emotionally with others. In interviews, he has spoken about the challenges he faced in learning to trust and open up in his relationships. Marriage to Nicole. Keith has shared that his difficult upbringing left him with emotional scars, making it hard for him to express his feelings. He admitted, "I didn't know how to talk about what I was feeling. I kept it all inside." But through his relationship with Nicole, Keith has learned how important it is to open up. He credits Nicole for helping him become more emotionally open, both as a husband and a father to their 2 daughters. Keith once said, "I love being married to Nick, and I'm grateful that our daughters are growing up in a home where talking about feelings is a natural part of life." When asked how having kids changed his life, he responded, "Oh God, in every way. 2 girls that call me Dad. I never had that before." He also said, "Is that your favorite word? It's a good one. Baby is good too. My wife calls me that." Keith enjoys being a dad and loves the role, even though he often gets asked, "What do you love most about being a dad?" His answer is simple. Well, everything. However, even though Keith was happy in his marriage, his struggles didn't disappear. His relapse in 2006 was a very tough time, but Nicole stood by him. She encouraged him to get help again. Keith later reflected on this period, saying, "You can never let your guard down in recovery." He has since spoken about how important it is for him to stay focused and keep working on his sobriety. Nicole has been more than just a wife to Keith. She has been a source of strength and stability. Keith has said, "She's my rock," Randy Fletcher. In many interviews, Keith has shared that his relationship with Nicole is built on love, trust, and a deep understanding of each other's struggles. This strong bond has helped Keith grow both personally and professionally. He often credits Nicole with saving his life, not only by supporting him through his battle with addiction, but also by helping him see the world in a more positive and hopeful way. Nicole's love and encouragement have given Keith the strength to face his challenges and move forward with a clearer perspective on life. Along with his fight against addiction, Keith has experienced several personal losses. One of the most heartbreaking came in 2021 when his longtime tour manager, Randy "Baja" Fletcher, tragically passed away in a stage accident just before a concert in Ohio.
The longtime tour production manager for him, his name was Rondi Baha Fletcher. He was 72 years old. He died on August 27th. He had fallen the previous day during Keith Urban's appearance at the Bash on the Bay.
Fletcher had been with Keith for over a decade, and their relationship went beyond just work. Randy was a close friend, someone Keith deeply trusted. During the concert that followed Randy's death, Keith honored his memory with a heartfelt tribute. He said, "Some people ask, are you a glass half full or half empty person? Baha always said, 'What a beautiful glass.'" Keith added, "I loved him. We all loved him, and I'm thankful he chose us as his road family for a decade." Randy's sudden passing was a devastating blow, and Keith's words showed just how much his friend meant to him. It was a tragic moment that reminded Keith of the deep connections that form over years of shared experiences, making Randy's loss even harder to bear. Robert Urban. One of the most painful losses Keith faced came in 2015 when his father, Robert Urban, passed away after a long fight with cancer. Their relationship had been complicated, filled with both struggles and moments of connection, but Robert was still the one who first introduced Keith to country music. Despite the emotional challenges between them, it was Robert who sparked Keith's love for the genre, a love that would later shape his career and life. In the days leading up to Robert's passing, Keith visited him in hospice care. That time was filled with both grief and reflection. Keith has said that his father's deep love for country music had a lasting impact on him, influencing his decision to pursue a career in the same genre. Although their relationship wasn't always easy, Keith was grateful for the music his father had introduced him to, and it became a part of his own identity. Losing Robert was incredibly difficult for Keith. He has often spoken about the pain of saying goodbye to his father.
Every day, of course, yeah, but I see him in our daughter's eyes as well.
You do?
I'm immersed in, my dad's all a huge part of me, of course.
But he also takes comfort in knowing that his dad's love for music lives on through Keith's work. Robert may not have always been there emotionally for Keith, but the musical bond they shared remains a powerful part of Keith's life. Keith's journey with loss didn't stop there. In addition to the loss of his father, he has faced other life-threatening moments, such as an incident with the paparazzi. Being in the public eye comes with risks, and in 2007, Keith had a close call while riding his motorcycle. This experience reminded him just how fragile life can be, and made him even more aware of the people and things that matter most to him. Keith's losses have not only shaped his music, but also deepened his understanding of life and what truly matters. Though grief and challenges have come his way, Keith has learned to turn to his music for healing and to keep his father's legacy alive through his work. A brush with death. Keith Urban's life has been filled with many moments of challenge, but one close call stands out in his memory. In 2007, Keith was riding his motorcycle to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in Sydney when a paparazzi photographer started following him on another bike. What began as a simple pursuit quickly turned dangerous. The photographer chased Keith through traffic, causing the situation to become more and more perilous. At one point, Keith had to make a quick decision to avoid an oncoming vehicle. In doing so, he lost control of his motorcycle and crashed into the road. Miraculously, Keith walked away from the crash without any serious injuries. The incident could have been much worse, and it was a reminder of how quickly life can change. It also showed just how invasive and dangerous the paparazzi can be when they are determined to get a picture. What made this situation even more surprising was the reaction of the photographer. Instead of taking photos, as Keith had expected, the paparazzi member helped Keith off the road and made sure he was okay. Keith later reflected on the experience, noting that despite the frightening chase and the crash, the photographer didn't try to get any pictures. Instead, he showed genuine concern for Keith's well-being. Keith was struck by the irony of the situation, realizing that even in such a dangerous and unsettling moment, kindness could still be found. This brush with death not only taught Keith to appreciate the fragility of life, but also reminded him of the unexpected ways people can show kindness. It was a moment that stayed with him, shaping his perspective on fame, personal safety, and the connections we make with others. Career highlights. Keith Urban's journey to stardom is full of amazing achievements. Despite facing many tough times, his career has been truly remarkable. In 1990, he released his first album in Australia, which marked the beginning of his music career. However, it wasn't until a few years later, in the mid-1990s, that Keith moved to Nashville, hoping to make it big in the heart of country music.
A boy from the Australian bush saves a few bob, packs his guitar, and sets out for Nashville, hoping to crack America's massive country music market. Sounds far-fetched? Not if you're Keith Urban.
In 1999, Keith got his big break when he released his first album in America. This album produced several hit songs, including You're Everything and But for the Grace of God. The latter became his first #1 hit on the U.S. country charts, solidifying his place as a rising star in the country music world. From that moment on, Keith's career skyrocketed. His mix of country, pop, and rock influences made him stand out from other artists. He continued to produce hit after hit, earning numerous awards and accolades along the way. His success also helped him build a loyal fan base around the world. Through hard work, dedication, and a love for music, Keith Urban turned his dreams into reality, achieving a level of success that many artists only hope to reach. Big break and career success. Keith Urban's big break came in 2001 when he won the top new male vocalist award at the Academy of Country Music Awards and the Horizon Award from the Country Music Association. These honors helped establish him as a rising star in country music. In 2002, Keith released his album *Golden Road*, which included the hit song Somebody Like You. This song spent an impressive 6 weeks at the top of the charts. Keith continued to achieve success over the years, releasing hit after hit. He earned several Grammy Awards, including Best Male Country Vocal Performance for You'll Think of Me in 2005 and Stupid Boy in 2007. One of his greatest accomplishments came in 2012 when he was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, a huge milestone for any country artist. That same year, Keith contributed his guitar skills to Tim McGraw's hit single, Highway Don't Care, which also featured Taylor Swift. This collaboration showed off Keith's versatility not just as a performer, but also as a skilled musician. Keith's career has been marked by constant growth, not only in his music, but also in his ability to connect with fans and create timeless music that continues to inspire. Charity work and giving back. Keith Urban's journey from his humble beginnings in Australia to international fame has deeply influenced his commitment to helping others. He has always been dedicated to supporting causes that are important to him. One of his most significant charitable efforts is his support for cancer research and patient care, especially after losing his father to cancer in 2015.
Keith Urban's father, Robert, has died just days after revealing his father, Robert Urban, had been admitted to hospice care after a long battle with cancer.
This loss made the cause even more personal for him. Over the years, Keith has donated to organizations like St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and Stand Up to Cancer. He has also performed at charity events to raise money for cancer research and treatment. Keith's charitable work doesn't stop there. He has also been active in fighting domestic violence. In 2017, he participated in the Allen for the Gambling tribute concert, which raised over $1 million for the Tennessee Disaster Relief Fund and the Children's Advocacy Center. The concert honored country music legend Kenny Rogers and brought together many famous artists, with Keith playing a major role as both a performer and contributor. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Keith showed his support for healthcare workers by performing a special drive-in concert for staff at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. This event was one of the first drive-in concerts during the pandemic and helped inspire other artists to follow suit. Keith shared how important it was to lift people's spirits during such a tough time. Aside from his charity performances, Keith has also worked to support youth music education. He has donated guitars and musical instruments to schools in low-income areas, giving young people the chance to discover and nurture their musical talents. Keith has said that giving back to others is both a responsibility and a privilege. Mentoring and judging. Keith Urban has always felt lucky to be in a position where he can help others. He once said, "Music saved me in so many ways, and if I can help someone else find that same salvation, that's worth everything." This mindset led him to become a mentor and judge on the popular show American Idol *. Keith joined the show in 2012, working alongside Mariah Carey, Nicki Minaj, and Randy Jackson. His role on American Idol * gave fans a chance to see a different side of him, as a caring, patient mentor who was truly interested in helping young musicians succeed. Keith's own experience of struggling in Nashville and facing many rejections helped him relate to the contestants. He understood how tough it was to pursue a music career, and this made him more empathetic when giving feedback. Unlike some harsh judges, Keith focused on offering positive advice. Even when he had to give criticism, he always made sure to highlight how the contestants could improve instead of just pointing out their mistakes. He was known as the nice judge, but that didn't mean he shied away from giving tough advice when it was needed. Keith often encouraged contestants to connect emotionally with their performances, reminding them that it was just as important to engage the audience as it was to hit the right notes. Many artists who appeared on American Idol * have said that Keith's guidance had a big impact on them, especially his focus on being real and telling a story through their music. Keith's time on American Idol * also helped bring country music to a wider audience.
I felt it driving into the studio lot tonight. It's because it's a rhythm I've known now for 4 seasons.
By blending country with pop and rock influences, he showed young artists that they didn't have to stick to one genre. Keith encouraged contestants to be themselves and take risks with their music. His experience as a mentor on American Idol * wasn't just about finding new stars. It was about inspiring the next generation of musicians to follow their dreams, just as he had done.